Hey guys, welcome back. This is going to be LAX Part 2. We're going to continue on from the second hour of Lost from the other night. So the show starts off with Hurley and Jin taking out Sayid from the back of the van. We see Sawyer also has Juliet, and he goes to get some shovels to dig up a hole to put Juliet in. Kate offers to help Sawyer try to dig a hole for Juliet, but he really doesn't want Kate to be there. He just lost somebody who's been in love with for 3 years, and I'm pretty sure Kate's the last person he wants to help. Sawyer then only asks Miles to stay behind. Sawyer's intention, obviously, is to see if, Miles can find out anything about Juliet, because we all know that Juliet said, "I want to tell you something important," and then she died. So our heroes arrive at the temple. Hurley sees a giant hole in the floor, and Jin shows him that that's where they gotta go. If you guys remember, that's exactly where Montaigne, I think he's the guy who got his arm ripped off, that's exactly where it happened when the smoke monster pulled him in. So now we go to the next scene, and it's Kate and Mars getting off the plane. If you guys remember who Mars is, he's the agent who arrested Kate in the first place. And I also forgot to mention that last episode that they get off the plane. Well, obvious now. Kate claims she has to use the bathroom. While she's in the bathroom, she tries to escape from her handcuffs, and then she gives Mars a nice little whooping. By the way, did anybody see the horrible stunt double there was for Mars there? Nice hairpiece! After that, she leaves the bathroom and then escapes. She gets down to a couple of flight of stairs and eventually jumps into a taxi cab and goes on her way. And oh my god, it's Claire right next to Kate! Claire wasn't in Season 5 at all, as most of you already know, so it was really nice to see that she was actually in Season 6. The next scene now we see is Miles and Sawyer. Sawyer is just finishing up on burying Juliet, and then Sawyer's like, can you do me a favor and tell me what, Juliet's doing? And Miles is like, I can't do it. And then Sawyer throws him to the ground and says to do it. And then Miles says, oh, she said that it worked. I'm not too sure if that's actually what she said, though, or if Miles is just lying just to make Sawyer happy, because they really don't talk about that the rest of the episode. Whether or not Miles is lying, though, I'm not too sure on that. So while Jack and Kate and Hurley are them in the cave trying to carry Sayid, they get bombarded by a bunch of people. We're not too sure who they are right now, and then they bring them outside, and we see a gigantic temple. If I'm not mistaken, this is also the same temple that little Ben went into when Sayid shot him. I find it a little coincidental that Ben went in there when he got shot, and Sayid was the one who did it, and now Sayid's the one who shot, and now he has to go there. Guards who are holding on to everyone bring them to their leader, who looks like somebody from Mortal Kombat. And he doesn't know who they are, so right away he says to shoot them. Hurley stops them by screaming that he knows Jacob and that he has something for him. Hurley hands over the guitar case, and inside the guitar case is the symbol of the goddess Chwayrit. We've seen the symbol before from when we saw the actual four-toed statue when Sawyer and Juliet and all of them were floating through time. So the wannabe Liu Kang decides to actually help them. He decides to bring everybody inside. But before anything, Hurley demands to know what's going on and what was said on that note, because he was the one who brought it through time and across the ocean and whatnot. And then his English translator says, put it this way, if we don't help out your friend, we're in a lot of trouble. They bring Sayid and everybody else into a room which has like a gigantic pool or water type structure in it. And what happens is that they take Sayid and they put him in that. This is where I'm assuming little Ben also went when he got shot, and that's how Ben survived. Sayid gets awoken from his unconscious state when he starts to drown inside of the water. All of the Losties are yelling to help him out and release him, and you're killing him. But I guess that the others know what they're doing. When they felt it was time to lift him up, they lifted him up. But unfortunately, it wasn't good enough because Sayid winds up dying. At this point, I'm just really mad. I don't like the fact that Sayid is gone, or so to be gone right now. Sayid's one of my favorite characters on the show, and it just sucks to see him actually be dead if he is. I felt with the death of Sayid, that made Jack go to his limit. We see Jack trying to bring him back to life by giving him CPR, and he's just not coming back. It's one of the things that really bothers me about Jack. He always tries to fix things even when it can't be fixed anymore. It's just like, stop already, enough. Back to the airplane scene, and all of a sudden you hear an announcement that there's a Jack Shepherd, can you please report to the main desk? We find out that they actually lost Christian Shepherd on the way to Los Angeles, and Jack is just really mad. One of the people who works at the airport explains that they have no idea where the coffin is, and Jack is complaining that he has a funeral to go to in 2 hours. We also see the handicapped John Locke, who's standing behind them, saying that they also lost a package of his too. So Jack and Locke talk for a little bit. Jack, becomes quite friendly with Locke, and he indicates him that if he ever wants any treatment done on his spine, to let him know it's on the house. Jack's being really nice right now, and Locke's just being very grateful for that. It's just funny how they wind up talking and knowing and possibly seeing each other in the future, although Jack really wants nothing to do with Locke throughout the whole series. I also feel at this point that it's as if Jack and Locke were destined to have each other in their lives somehow. You really don't need to have everybody in your life that's on the island, but at least everybody will be associated with one another, regardless if they weren't on the island or not. Now at this point, I still got the funny feeling that this is a dream of some kind, and if it's not a dream, this is what would have happened if there was no island to begin with. To get back to the island, Hurley is talking to the chief inside the temple, and he lets him know that Jacob is indeed dead. The look on his face, he gets really, really aggravated and angry, and then he calls him for like an alert system, an alarm system, indicating that to get inside, people who are living inside the temple start to put that black gun smoke or whatever dust around them, just like Bram did before he died to the black smoke monster. By the way, does that lady who's standing behind the chief look familiar? That's the same lady who's a flight attendant on this so-called dream / fantasy land right now. So after they secure everybody inside, they shoot a flare up really high in the air. So we move to the scene of Ben with the fake John Locke, or the smoke monster now if you want to call him, and Ben tells him that he feels used, that he used him this whole time, and then the fake John Locke tries to get into his head a little bit. So the smoke monster goes on to tell Ben about how pathetic John Locke's life was, and that's the reason why he wanted to stay on the island. And then he goes on to say, but unlike John Locke, he actually wants to go home. So now the black smoke monster has got to try to find a way to get off this island. Back to a short scene of where Kate is trying to comfort Sawyer, tease, and tries to actually make help with the situation. Sawyer lets Kate know that he's not going to kill Jack anymore, and that he's just going to let him suffer like everybody else has to. Fake Locke decides to leave the four-toed statue. He goes outside, sees Richard, and says to Richard, oh, it's nice to see you without your chains, and then decides to beat the crap out of him. I was talking with some people, and some of the people said that meant because when Richard came to the island, he was in chains, and now that Jacob's gone, whatever. I'm not too sure about that. I'm thinking that the chains were more of his immortal status. If Jacob's dead and Jacob's the one who gave Richard immortality, if Jacob's gone, maybe Richard is not immortal anymore. Maybe that's why Locke was able to beat up Richard there. All of a sudden, John Locke sees that there's a flare in the air. So that means that Juliet setting off this bomb put them back in the same time frame as Sun and Frank Lapidus and all of them together again. Also, don't be surprised if we see a reuniting of Jin and Sun in the next episode. So after the black smoke monster beats up Richard, he puts him on his shoulder and he starts to walk somewhere. We wind up seeing that right after that, one of the people wants to talk to Jack, and Jack doesn't want to, and all of a sudden, freaking Saeed wakes up from the dead. Not sure if that is a bad Saeed or a good Saeed. I've come to a conclusion that the black smoke monster can take form of anybody who's dead on the island, like whose corpse is on the island. But the problem with that is that I'm pretty sure that that's not the black smoke monster. The black smoke monster doesn't take form of their actual body. It just makes like a clone of it. Because you just saw recently have, the fake John Locke walk by the actual John Locke. I'm not too sure what to expect next episode. The next episode is called What Kate Does. Assuming it's going to be an episode about Kate. Possibly about Kate after she got off the airplane and where she went. My guess is that she went with Claire somewhere because characters seem to be interacting with other characters and getting into their lives, just like John is with Jack, and now Claire's about to be with Kate. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to check in for my episode 2 of What Kate Does. I should have it up about Wednesday or so, and just comment and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks again.